and then back off an hour.
And so what do you do? What do you do, Wendy? Which mask are you wearing when you are working then?
I'm wearing what's called a KN95, so it's not an N95 mask. This is a mask that they sell through acupuncture supply places for acupuncturists to use. They're also suggesting that we wear just surgical masks, the disposable paper ones. And some of them, when I breathe through them, it's irritating. So I don't know if it's something in the fibers that they use. It's just so, and you know, Robert, I think of you every night because I tape. I still tape.
Me too, I still tape.
So I didn't for a while, and then it's like, oh, I'm mouth breathing. Okay, what else can I do? And I'm using an oximeter every morning to check my O2 levels. And because I'm a practitioner, I'm taking my temperature because I have to like take my patients' temperatures outside the building before they come in. So, yeah.
And so that N95 mask doesn't have a release valve. That's why that's more appropriate for working then, right?
Well, it's, you know, it's called a KN95. So it has these ear straps. So it's not a true N95 where you're sealing everything. I have one of those left over from the fires we had, you know, a few years ago where air quality was crappy.
Well, what I'm just thinking, it must be, if it doesn't have the valve, which everybody speaks to as not really protective because it releases the air, though it does have a filter in it, it must be a little harder to breathe with than these that have a valve.
Yeah, and you know, because they don't fully seal unless I really ratchet it up. So then I can feel my breath coming out like around my chin. I think, well, okay. Is that helpful? And I mean, I just did a coronavirus test yesterday. Because I treated some people who were at the marches. And I just wanted to see, okay, I haven't had the procedure done. So I had the swab yesterday and got the results today that they were negative.
Oh, you got them that fast.
Right. Huh? Yeah. But they say, you know, it could be a false negative, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, but.
Oh, more folks.
Morning, Carol. Nancy, are you there somewhere? There you are.
Hello.
Morning. Good morning. So we have Wendy, Mary, Nancy, and Carol. And let me just take a look and see. Ashama's supposed to be here. Carol's supposed to be here. Jennifer's supposed to be here. No, we're waiting for anywhere from 1 to 3 more people, but we'll just give them another minute and that's all, then we'll start. Everybody got a mask with them?
I can get one.
Should we bring more than one if we wear
Well, if you use
multiple?
more than one, use different kinds, it might be nice to track, because breathing through this one is much different than breathing through this one. Bliss, so here comes somebody. Ashama, Bliss Facilitator. That's what you are. You facilitate our bliss, do you?
Did I say, yeah, of course.
Maybe you should run the class today. I could feel you could use a little bliss today.
The witness.
Today is, you know, some of you know, well, maybe all of you do. Continuum. Today's Emily's birthday. So a poem came through from somebody today, which was really beautiful. So it put me in the reminder of missing her and the fullness of my love and gratitude for having crossed paths with such a phenomenal human being. It just makes me want to.
I did not remember that.
Brings tears
but
to
I
my
would
eyes.
say I just did a dive and it was like man, the field was enormous. So she was trying to get my attention. Sorry.
Well, sounds like she did.
She did.
Need a little support. So I'm a little funny. I just feel a little more quieter inside myself today. So all right, we'll just get started because I think the other two may not be here. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It seemed like the real relevant thing to do, given that I had to figure out what I was doing wearing a mask and listening to a lot of other people talk about, oh my God, it's so hard to breathe through a mask and whatnot, and whatnot, and whatnot. So I love teaching this because it's the contributions that everybody makes to the conversation continues to enhance the potential of the teaching. So please feel free to put your words in when you feel like you want to put your words in. Just unmute yourself. So the thing that came to me yesterday, and I spoke about yesterday in class, was how much a mask redefines what I consider my personal space. That this is my personal space. I live in this space, and I pull air from this bigger atmosphere. But when I put a mask on, it changes my personal space. This becomes part of my personal space, right? I'm identified now with this as something that I am now breathing through and breathing with and using for my well-being and for the well-being of others. So that was the first thing that really occurred to me. And what other things that occurred to me along the emotional lines is that I had the opportunity to feel, when I do this, a sense of I can drop into feeling kind of isolated. That my social engagement with others is limited to maybe new gestures of waving or saying hi with my eyes or smiling behind the mask so that my eyes reflect my smile, because I can't read this anymore unless I get a mask that has, making them with clear pieces in here. And that really ties into, hold on, let this person in. Hi. Who's connecting? There you are. You're Jennifer, right? Right. Roger. Okay, great. All right, I see that name up there.
That's my nickname.
So we're talking about masks and how we have to kind of orient to the fact that we have to redefine our personal space. That our personal space now includes a proprioception of a mask on our face. And so we have to kind of look into what's going on internally as I organize around an appendage, if you will. And part of that organization is to see, where does that leave me inside of myself in relationship to the world around me and relationship to others. And so I'm dancing between feeling isolated and feeling like I can't connect, as opposed to making efforts to connect, and then going to the more positive side of why I do it in the first place. So that's just a beginning thought that I had around it. So let's just take a moment, put on your masks, if you will, if you have one there. Rajay, do you have one? And just notice, the body tells all. So just notice, what do you start to do inside of yourself once you have that mask on? How do you organize internally by having this, piece on your face? What kind of things come to your awareness? What kind of things do you notice that come into your awareness by having a mask on? Well, for me, right away, I have to kind of recognize that my skin is now a little more highly alert to the fact that there's a garment on there. And I'm just going to give my reports and then we can kind of talk. Then we can also notice that immediately I'm tracking temperature. that I'm more aware of the temperatures of my breath than I was when I didn't wear a mask.
Robert, I'm noticing that I had never considered it till you asked the question, but because it's center of my face, it's drawing my awareness to my center, which is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if I mostly wear this in a facility like the grocery, and when I have my glasses on, then my glasses fog up. So that's the annoying side of the mask for me, as well as the behind the ear. I have an extender, but I don't have it on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that I have that center more.
Yeah, and I noticed when you speak about that, when I wouldn't have named that myself, but I noticed that it drops me into my back field to balance off what's going on in my front field. So I'm a little bit more aware of my back, which also I like because my back needs to breathe.
Yeah.
So right away we're more aware of our breathing, right? Because the temperature just makes it more, and then we know that we are. And this is what I'm thinking today. Also, I think underlying all of this, we're wearing the mask because we know there's something in the air that could actually kill us at some point. So there's this edge of now life and death. There's the more awareness of the fragility and the both the resiliency and the fragility of the potential of what's in the air right now, and that we're having to adjust and cope to the fact. This is just a particular political stance on my part, that the air is unhealthy to breathe, and that underneath that for humans, that's a very critical lack of trust that we have to adjust to, and find what we can trust. And so learning how to use this mask the way it feeds us. So the other side of that coin is that it is supporting our health, which is offering a sense of protection. And I'm glad, appreciating the fact that I have some protection. And it also changes, and I'm going to just bring this piece in. I still want to hear from you if you have something to say. It redefines my limitations. In other words, this is the biggest piece. I think the limitation before was I have all the atmosphere to breathe from, but I have to kind of shift my limitations to recognize that mostly I'm breathing the air that's both inside the mask and that's being drawn through the mask. So if I look for air way out here, when I take a bigger breath, it's over breathing. I get too hot and too constricted too fast. Everything is slowing down. Yeah. So I want to feel. So what I noticed yesterday was I noticed that, and this is one of the dangers of a mask, is that the exhale is hot. Yeah. And the inhale is actually cool. So I'm playing with both hot and cool on every breath. So I know that I have to kind of move a little slower, don't I? If it's so hot, if I move faster, it's going to get a lot hotter in there.
Robert, I'm also wondering about, since when we breathe out, we're releasing CO2. Now we're incubating in our CO2.
That's right. So here's what I do. This is one of the things that I think is valuable. And it fits into the Buteyko breathing method about how we take care of our breath and where there needs to be a natural pause at the end of the exhale. So we breathe in when we went with the mask, and then we breathe out. We feel that heat, and at the end of the exhale, we pause for a couple of seconds, 1 or 2 seconds, and feel how that heat dissipates, right? So giving it a chance to leave the mask, either through the filters or through the edges. And then when it feels cooler, begin the breath again. So it's really slowing down the breathing rate and becoming more conscious of the pause between the exhale and the inhale. So that really shifts my organization about how I'm going to start to move my body. I'm going to move it more on the inhale when I'm cooling, perhaps, or at the end of my exhale. So the other thing that's interesting, both for you, Wendy, and for you, Carol, this mask, surprisingly, maybe it's true for you too, Mary, gives me raw room in here. There's more airspace in here. And so it doesn't get as hot. So the size of the mask and how much air is underneath the mask changes your orientation based on how much resource do I have and how do I tap into that resource in a way that lets me use it without overusing it and without getting frustrated that I don't have enough, and pausing on the exhale to let everything quiet down.
So
Yeah, Wendy.
what I notice when I wear this is that, you know, it feels more restrictive in some way. Like you're talking about feeling the back body. I just feel all this tension here of heat and moisture and feeling like I can't get a big full breath.
Right.
And it's almost a little claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to deal with that here right now. But I just wanted to put this one on because this one pinches the nose. I think it's, you know, and so you have to be really careful to make sure that pinching is way up high, not down here, right? It's got to be above the, you know, right around the bridge, so it doesn't pinch. If you feel like it's pinching into the nasal passageway and making them smaller, and that's not going to work.
Helpful, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Let's see if anything.
also,
Go ahead, Wendy.
well, with some masks, like with these that go around the ear, I'm having the mask like pulling my ear forward. It's like this temporal traction. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I feel like I need to like decompress my temporal bones at the end of the day because of that.
Yeah, well, you're really sensitive to that being a craniosacral therapist. So, you know, you may want to redesign that mask so it does go up here and back here like this one does. So it's less tension.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I wear one of those that go in the collar and you just pull it up, you know, and it's fabric. And that's a little less tension also. I should have brought that in, maybe I'll get it. Because that's the major complaint. I have a daughter who's a nurse, and I've had some clients and nurses, and they go, oh my God, I got such a headache at the end of the day and so much nausea at the end of the day. And that's that issue about CO2, that it'll really make you start to feel really sick and breathless because it's depriving the body to be able to expel it. And the suffocating comes from, and this is what I think is important, the suffocating comes from the accumulation of CO2. It is a suffocating gas. That's its function, is to alert the nervous system that there's too much CO2 in the body so that you take a breath. So you have to let it dissipate out of the mask for a minute or so, not a minute or so, a breath or two, so that you can manage some of that too. It just slows down all activity. Go ahead, Wendy.
So one of the things I've been doing, our National Acupuncture Board, they're having a weekly town hall meeting online. And there was a panel discussion last week, and these different acupuncturists were talking about how what they're seeing with their patients is this lung qi stagnation, because
Lung qi stagnation?
I know, I'm taking.
Yeah, the stagnation, because we're supposed to be breathing in the air into our lungs, that air chi into the lungs and that function. And so here we are blocking that. And so people may not have respiratory issues, but the lung energy is shifting and it's showing up in their pulse.
Yeah, the lung energy is shifting, and so is the heart energy. The heart's going to start working harder when the lung energy shifts like it can't be enough. Then the heart's going to pump up a little bit more and raise some blood pressure to try to get that oxygen around that's available. So let's do this. We're gonna take a break here for a second, and then we'll go back to putting the masks on. Yeah, right. A real relief. So you know, it's an interesting thing in terms of how do I manage my day, you know, based on the mask. If I have to be on an hour, how much time do I need off the mask to feel like, okay, I'm ready to put the mask on again? You know, it's like all of this virus is really asking us to rethink everything that we do and how we live our lives, which is the positive aspect of it. So that's another thought too. So Rajay, you have something to say? You got a nice smile on your face there. Were you responding to something?
Well, no, I was just thinking about, you know, I'm also a cranial sacral therapist, and I have scheduled clients apart from each other. So after I've worked with one, and I do try and just keep nasal breathing, you know, like Buteyko. So I can then go outside and breathe for about 10 or 15 minutes, just normal, and then come back in. And that really helps my nervous system have that.
Great. Yeah, I think that's an important thing. And it's asking everybody, the virus certainly is asking everybody to slow down.
Yes.
And I think, you know, personally, this is my own personal take on it, coming from where I come from my being a breathing teacher. I mean, people are paying attention to breath now like never before, right?
Yeah.
This is all of a sudden. And the virus, you know, its first and most outstanding positive result was it cleaned the air, right? In 3 weeks, instead of 2025, instead of 2050, it said, no, now.
Yeah.
See what that's like when you have clean air to breathe. And all of you who have been breathing polluted air, you're the ones that are going to die first, because you're the ones who've been compromised the most from this polluted air. Take a look at that.
Yeah.
Right? And so do we want to return to all that pollution? And not really, right? So we're being asked to pay more attention. And then I just have to say, in the midst of the incredible sadness and revolution over George Floyd, what was his issue? How did he die? Couldn't breathe. Right? It's everywhere. And the truth is, I'm going to get on my soapbox. The truth is, this is devastating, in the fact that, you know, we had to go to organic foods because we didn't trust the soil, right? And for those who could afford it, and those who can't are suffering from pesticide digestion. Then we couldn't drink the water, so everybody drinks bottled or purified water. And so our last remaining resource is what we're having to bring attention to. The air we need to survive is not inhabitable. 91% of the world's population doesn't have clean air to breathe. That's 9 million people a year die from air pollution based on only heart attacks and strokes and lung. We don't know about the other diseases. And I don't know if you read the paper in Wired magazine. The national parks are now tracking that the dust that comes through them drops 1,000 tons of microplastic from the air onto the ground a year. So the dust is now not just dust out there, it's plastic. It's all filled with plastic. So now we're breathing, and you know, the doctors say, well, we don't know the effect on the body from plastic. Well, a little left brain there. So really, we have. I mean, there's an urgency here, both in protecting ourselves from future invasions, and also demanding that, come on, this last resource that we have in our lives to take care of ourselves is fading. You know? So, on that sober note, right? But that's the scary part, is that the plastic and this coronavirus, we don't even know how to deal with the waste. The amount of plastic that's being used is off the charts right now. And every patient is using 30 pounds of medical waste per day in the hospital. It's an astronomical amount of waste that's going in. And even now that the masks are in the ocean is filling up with masks. So we just don't know how to take care of ourselves. We just don't. All right. so I just want to look to that positive side of the mask wearing, that it's, that's how we take care of ourselves right now. And it's going to be maybe not go away so quickly. And the fact that we are now recognizing it is airborne. And so we have to be careful it's in the air. It can stay up to 20 minutes if the particles are small enough floating around in the air. And that's why people wear them when they walk outside. All right, so we're going to apply some of the things we learned in some of the other workshops now and do them inside the mask, so we can see how some of those other Buteyko principles and the ways that we use our breath can support our wearing our mask. All right, so we're back to putting on the mask. So just taking a moment to orient again, once again, here I am, I'm wearing a mask. I feel the straps. I notice that I've got something on my face. If I have any vanity about a mask, it's rising to the surface now. It challenges my perception of my persona, puts me in touch with the need and the dangers out there. And so the first thing to do in terms of reducing airway resistance so that we can fulfill what Wendy is talking about and giving the lungs enough room to breathe so the chi doesn't get stuck, and is to, when you breathe in, I don't know who knows this from me or not, so I'm just going to say it like this. When you breathe in, you are thinking the syllable sa, S-A. And the importance of thinking the syllable sa is to notice the difference between how, when you are just breathing or how you think you should breathe out of your habits by drawing air in through your nose, the difference that happens when you think sa as you breathe in. And you may want to test this by putting your hands on your chest and trying to take a deep breath where you are actually drawing the air through your nose as if you would think you were taking a deep breath. And notice whether this gets tighter or looser. And then when you breathe with sa, just keeping your hand there for a moment, notice what happens to the tension in the chest. It softens, right? So it lets you increase your capacity. So if we want to fulfill the idea of creating more lung chi, keep saying sa, the ah part of it, just elongate it in your thinking, and let your body keep breathing while you're thinking that sa, and watch how your lungs can open and expand, and the body's accommodating that, and you can get that bigger breath. And really fill up, and then let that exhale leave with thinking ha, H-A. So it's totally passive, letting that heat build up, waiting a moment. And breathing in as the air comes in cooler, letting that heat leave. And then sa again as you breathe in. So that gives you more room to breathe, yeah? And just nod your head. Mm-hmm. And so the next piece of that, to make sure that your airway resistance is reduced so that the air can come in more easily. Oh, we lost one, I see, yeah. Is to make sure that your tongue is at the roof of your mouth, as best you can get it there, right behind the top front teeth at the first ridge at least. And the idea is the back of the tongue is supposed to curl up through your back teeth or touch your back teeth. The tongue is curling on the soft palate and the hard palate, if you can get it there. But what you really want to play with is the difference between what it feels like when your tongue is down at the bottom of your mouth, and what it feels like when it's the roof of your mouth. So that helps open up the throat. So I can't get away from the fact, I'm just speaking for myself, that I'm feeling contained.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep wanting to be more exuberant. I can't. It's too contained. I'm too confined. I have to be slower, and everything slows down. So the next piece on this, nasal breathing, sa and ha, tongue recovery up in the mouth. And then the idea here under the mask, even in containment, is can I stay rooted and not get too, and not get too into my head about all of this. So while I'm exhaling, I'm more aware of the weight of my body because I'm getting less buoyant. And my body is moving towards the earth. You get a sense of that? And so as it moves towards the earth, I'm not falling through the earth. There's things that are coming up from underneath me that are supporting me. The chair, the floor. So as our body exhales and it loses some of its buoyancy, can I let it ride down onto that support and rest there for a moment? And when I inhale with sa, I'm staying aware of the connection that I felt when I exhaled at the bottom to the root of me. So I'm letting the inhale come up through the root. I keep it in my awareness. So I'm connected to ground as I get more buoyant. I don't fly off the planet. So it's certainly, this is a contemplative practice, which I can't be doing if I'm working, but I can tune into it every once in a while. So I'm noticing here, as I do my speaking, which I practice to inhale through my nose before I speak, when I run, when I feel like I'm pacing my activity level based on my capacity to nose breathe. So when I run out of air when I'm speaking, I have to stop and breathe through my nose. And so I'm taking much longer time to do that now because I have to wait for all that air to come through the mask. Not rush my inhale and then feel satisfied with it and then go on talking. So my whole pace is slowing down because as I talk, it gets real hot in here. So I'm balancing the heat with my inhale and the coolness, but also slowing down. So I'm noticing I'm not wearing myself out through this breathing process. I'm really considering the confinement, the protection, the background of the need based on the things are dangerous out there without them when I'm in certain conditions. And so I'm really staying with the word you used, Mary, which is on my inhale, I'm allowing, and in this process, it feels very important for me to stay embodied. And I'm using the portal of breath to embody me and show me how much I can use my body based on my capacity to take air in and out, which has become limited. And so I'm learning to live within the new limit which is a healthy thing to do when we know what our limits are. If we're wanting to push against the limits or be aggravated by the limit, then it's going to cause us to be more stressed. And the other positive side of it is this too, is that I'm hopeful, prayerful, that what comes through the mask will nourish me and not kill me.
Neat idea.
It's a nourishing. I'm trusting that I'm going to get nourished. It's the only way I can be nourished right now, without feeling edgy around, oh my God. So it's shifting our identities too, and our personas that that have played through our faces. We don't have that right now. We only have the internal realm to relate to, and to arrive into conversation and into beingness with others from that confined, limited, nourished internal space, and honoring that. And so the big piece here, I noticed in the supermarket when I went in, I first started wearing a mask, I went right to my mouth breathing. I thought, whoa, not good. These are only 77% efficient anyway, so mouth breathing is not what I want to be doing right now. But that's because I wanted to do my grocery shopping at the same speed that I always do it at. It's like, no, not today. Slow down, where's your back? One thing at a time.
Yeah.
Robert, did you see that Mary lost sound, and I think she's going to come back in again?
I didn't. I noticed that Ashimo disappeared.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'll have to watch for her.
Yeah.
So we can either take our mask. Here she comes.
Yeah.
Give her a chance to get in here. Oh, she wrote in the chat, did she? Okay. Welcome back, Mary.
Oh, can't hear her.
She's muted.
I couldn't hear for a little bit. I just tried to log off and come back. Now I can hear her. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. We were just talking about it, the slowing down, the pace that slows down. So how did all that go for you? What did you notice, or anything we want to add to that and talk about? Add to that?
I'll share. What was interesting with the Saha breath and the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, I just thought, oh, we're doing this microcosmic orbit.
That's right.
You
We
know,
certainly are.
Like this total meditation. And feeling that within the confines of, the structure on my face. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt my system sort of dance between, because I'll do that tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth while I'm working to feel the chi differently on people's bodies. So it's like, oh, okay, to be plugged in, it's like, got it. And then at the same time, there is a sadness that I feel when I have to wear this. And, in Chinese medicine, lungs deal with loss, sadness, and grief. So it's sort of this, double energetic whammy. It's like, oh, I can have this experience and still have the space to feel this sadness.
The sadness is the root of a political action. If we all were really allowed to express the outrage and grief of losing these resources, and that was the conversation, something might change. Just a thought. But yeah, thank you for bringing that in. And for those who don't know the microcosmic orbit, it's just the circling of the energy throughout the whole egg of the torso and completing the energetic circuit of the body. It's a Taoist principle. Very powerful because it makes you feel centered, really. It's like, oh, I'm in my own orbit. I'm here. You can't get that as soon as you open your mouth. The other piece too, and we didn't play with it, but if you can do it without the mask, is if you let the saw and track how the air is moving from the lower part of the nose as it enters and starts to move up and fan upward. So that by the time you complete, you feel like it's traveled through all of the nose and the sinuses. You feel that? So those 3 holes are very important holes in terms of 3 levels of our nervous system. The lower hole is to bring into alignment our gut response to things, our resonant gut response. The middle hole is activating the limbic system so that we have our heart and our feeling body. And the upper hole is for the cognitive and bliss possibilities. So when we take the time to saha through all 3, along with the microcosmic orbit, we get a little more energetically in tune just from the breath itself. It's pretty cool if you ask me. Kind of gets you right home really quick.
Robert, in that exercise, I really became aware, one, a lot of empathy for those that have to wear a mask all the time, because I don't, just when I'm in a public situation. And also, I like that Wendy brought in that piece about grief. Anytime I, go dive into my lungs, I'm very sad afterwards, tuned into that energy. And I'm wondering now if a lot of that, 50-50 I described about some are wearing, some are not out there, that the ones that are not are just, I'm sure it's unconscious, but just not able to hold space for themselves for the sadness.
Nice point. Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of feels. And,
It is.
I work with a lot of, and I really particularly notice the struggle they have with breathing and always kind of wanting, some kind of system, but they can't really follow a system because they're mostly unwinding dysfunctional breathing anyway. And I was like, the question is really, am I breathing? So.
Yeah, breathing is habit. It has its habitual patterns that are shaped by our life's experiences. So when you begin to go in like that with breath, and you can really rest in the breath for a moment, so much can come to the surface. And, in the dysfunction, it's kind of a little bit what's been tickling me during this time, is the grief of the loss of essential nature of myself that got put aside to build the adaptive patterns to keep me safe. I mean, it's a pretty common idea, but it's actually been more accentuated right now because I'm spending so much more time letting the breath permeate and soften the tissues that have been holding some of all of this, so it rises more to the surface. That's what breath's function is to be, the body's function in relationship to breath is to allow the permeability of the phenomenon of the interior life of breath through all the tissues in response to these changing pressures that are functioning to enhance our healthy physiology. Any place that is held away from emotions or thoughts or feelings or places you haven't gone are limiting the potential for breathing to nourish. You decrease the capacity of the body to open to its fullness. So it struggles, it compensates all over the place. So for me, in terms of, you're absolutely right, people do not tolerate techniques. It's not about techniques. It's about finding some place where I can let the natural breath of my body arise and do what it's supposed to do without me interfering. And the more I shed, the more I can allow that, the less I'm holding in history and story and protection, the more that just begins to show up. And the things that I gave you here that I think are the most important is letting my lungs breathe me with Sa, so that I can actually feel my lungs breathing me. I'm interested in feeling my lungs breathing me. And somewhere in that is like, oh my God, this is absolutely exquisite. Look at this. This is what form is about, to feel this element pass through me and give me the life that I couldn't have if I didn't have that. And so it opens up space. And so the opening up of space and then coming back to gravity and resting in gravity and breathing from an awareness of gravity gives me the root that allows me to open more. So that I'm not going to go, oh my God, I'm getting out of body. I don't know where I am. No, I'm really connected right in my root right now. Thank you. I can open for it all. And so for me, breathing is about, what do I feel? Can I start to notice the relationship between my body, its response to the change and flow of air that's changing the internal pressures? There's so much sensation that takes place during a cycle of breath. So learning to track that, tolerate it, appreciate it, enjoy it, then becomes, this is my life force. And so I begin to see what's in the way of my life force by things that I've held on to. So can I cry about them? Can I laugh about them? Can I be angry about them? Can I express them? Can I get them out of me, please? Because they paralyze me. And so I particularly like the 3 holes also, is because it allows me to soften my belly, to feel what I feel in the world, in the gut, in my heart, and my thinking. They all go together. They're very important aspects of the trinity of my body, my gut, my heart, and my brain.
Can I pause you and just ask for clarification? Do you mean 1, 2, 3? Are you talking Kanchi? I'm not sure what holes you mean.
Yeah, I'll show you. Hang on a second. Coming right up. Oh, all right. Well, this is the one. Okay. So these are the 3 holes right here. The lower hole, the middle hole, and the upper. Upper in here, they're not really holes, they're passageways. So you can see the narrowness of this passageway here, the huge opening here, and the smaller one down here. So the heart is being fed the most. This one, if you have a habit, people have habits of pulling air up or pulling, widening their nose. When people are angry, what do they do with their nose? They go, right? Well, they're going right down to this blower hole to charge up that reptilian brainstem and go, yeah, I'm on. Or I'm up here. We want the organization of all 3. So here, this is a real, that was a drawing. This is a real picture. This is a real person's body. And so again, we see the narrowness up here, the bigger opening here to the sinuses, and then the lower holes, passageways right here. So this is reptilian, this is limbic, and this is cognitive, mental. So you got body, heart, mind here. And what this does, Mary, these conchae turbinates, and here's another picture of one, that's spiraling. Air circulates around, so it conditions the air, it takes makes the temperature right, makes humidity right, makes the bacterial, gets rid of bacteria, and filters a lot. And then it shapes the air this way, so that the air is coming into you this way. It's spiraling. So this is the sacred geometry of the movement of your body. Everything in your body spirals all the way from the DNA out to the collagen, out to the skin, out to the galaxies. It's all a spiraling conversation. As exemplified by this woman, for those of you who haven't seen this woman over here. She is picking up a gold medal after running a quarter mile, 440 yards, 400 meters, fastest woman in the world at that pace. Now, look at her. She is serene, she's quiet, she's intentional, she's nose breathing, and she's spiraling. She's using breath to win a gold medal. She knows exactly how it works in her body. She knows exactly how it moves her body. She knows the capacity that she has in her lungs because she's totally in touch with the movement of her breath as she runs. This woman, not so. Not so. Stressed beyond belief. Pushing way beyond her capacity to pace her activity level on her nose breathing. This woman absolutely learned Buteyko. I know her teacher, worked with her teacher. She did a lot of Pilates, and she had to fight the coaches who said, no, open your mouth. You got to get more air. Open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth. Open your mouth. No, I need to stay contained to know what my capacities are, as does this woman here. Totally focused. You can't do that. You open your mouth, you're in fight or flight immediately. Right? Totally triggers fight or flight. As soon as you breathe through your mouth, the nervous system gets escalated. You can just test that yourself, Wendy, by nose breathing, and then open your mouth and see what happens to your nervous system right away. So, yeah, that's what we want, yeah? So I'm going to bring up another, a different. Let me just find this. I'm going to stop the sharing for a minute. And then I'll bring up something else. Should have had this ready, I'm sorry. Okay. Here it comes. So these are just a couple of things that have showed up the other day. And I just had to show this picture of microplastic dust. It's just to make the point. But in terms of mask care, 89% of the national parks in the United States don't have healthy air to breathe.
Wow.
You can't, none of them have no haze that you can see the mountains like you used to be able to see far away. None of them like that. 89% have unhealthy air. If you come down to the lower 48, then 100%. So this was something somebody used, which is an ultraviolet box, basically. You put your mask in there, you press the button, 5 minutes later, supposedly your mask is completely bacterial and viral free. And the thing that I liked about it when the person told me about it is you could put your cell phone in there. I don't know about the big ones, but you can put your cell phone in there and purify that every once in a while. And there are going to be a plethora of new masks. This is one of them. This is called the O2 Curve. And so this is really nice because you can color coordinate the shell on the outside. It comes in a variety of 10 different colors, so you can have a nice look about you. It attaches behind the head. It's got filters inside you can buy, because you need filters you can buy and replace. It's supposed to seal really well around your face, be comfortable on the bridge and the nose. I don't have one, but I've read about them. They're $70. Both of those items are $70.
Robert, can we only get them from Canada?
Yeah, it's the only place I've been able to find them.
Because I ordered one 3 weeks ago, still haven't heard a thing.
Yeah, I wrote them about distributing them, and then she said, we're just inundated right now.
Okay.
But it's supposed to filter to 0.1 microns, and that's pretty small because I think viruses, smoke and stuff can be, nose will do 0.5, and then the rest will be 0.3. Smoke and stuff is down to 0.3. But for those of us who are in the Northwest, and Nancy, I don't know how you're feeling today with the smoke there, but you have to have an activated charcoal filter in your mask if there's smoke. These masks, these will work better, but these are useless for smoke.
Yeah.
So they're making, I just bought some on Amazon the other day. They're making them now in this shape so that you can put them in the pockets that people are making their masks with. This one has a pocket somewhere. Yeah, here has a pocket, so you can slip filters inside them. So these are just made by people locally on Vashon, and people are cutting apart HEPA filters from their air filters systems and making them. But you got to be careful, because the more resistance you put in, the harder it is going to breathe, and the more slowed down you have to get. It's all asking you to slow down. I did read a while ago, a month or two ago, that silk was one of the best filters. And the other piece is what we're not really I think you all agree, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but we're really trying to limit water droplets. We know the air is going to go through. It's just the droplets that we're trying to stop from going through, the small droplets. Yeah, so that's that on that. So we're almost out of time, but that's okay. We can keep going. Any other thoughts that you want to bring in? So these are the steps, be first aware. I'll give you a chance to speak again. Be aware that you're changing your personal space, that there's something now on your face, like they did studies, with automobiles, when people get into a car, their body is now the car, they immediately extend their proprioception to the edges of the car. Well, we're having to do the same thing with the mask, that it's a confinement, but it is a support. And then slowing down and, doing sa and ha and tongue placement and gravity, and allowing the exhale and the heat of the exhale to dissipate, because when the heat's dissipating, so is the CO2. So that when you breathe back in, you're not overloading your system with CO2. So you need that pause at the end of the exhale. And be careful with your talking and practicing that other mandate at the Teiko, besides breathing through your nose all the time, that you pace your activity level so that you can use your nose for breathing all the time, and that includes speaking. At least on the inhale, when you're speaking, you can't breathe through your nose when you're exhaling. And I just think we have to kind of look also to how is it serving us? And it is serving us to slow down and raising our awareness about breath and dangers and where we want to fit into this shifting of global consciousness.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
That was great.
Much richer than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, good.
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll be sending out the recording in about an hour, so you have it. I probably will send it out. We had 3 groups. I think I'm just going to give you the link to the folder that all three workshops, or all 3 lectures were in. So if you want to watch them, you can pick up some things from the other ones that I might not have said here.
Oh, great.
Great.
You appreciate this.
Yeah, and I'm going to do it next week again on Friday and Saturday, not on Father's Day. So.
I'll send out a thing.
I will. I just had the flyer done. It's going to go out Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks
Everybody-
again, Robert. Very helpful.
You're
So
welcome.
much.
I'm glad. Pass it along. And if anybody needs a link to the videos, pass it along to them.
Oh, wow. Very generous. Thank
Very
you.
generous. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, have a good Sunday.
You too.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.